So, yo, I don't know why OnlyFans is so
I
popular.
admit it. I am a simp. And no, I am not proud of that fact. If I could go back in time and stop myself when I first started acting like one, I would. In a heartbeat. But I was an excited little goblin back then, and just the tiniest bit of attention from a woman was enough to fry my brain. In my defense, though, she was absolutely...
Oh shit, I used to be the same way. When I was a kid, oh no, I was so shy. Look at me now.
Still shy.
Nah.
Yes, you are.
Baby, this don't need to be. What are you talking about? I got you.
What you looking at?
Huh?
Hey, you still shy though, baby.
No,
Why is she dressed like that?
I don't know. I just paused it.
You are still shy though. It's okay, baby.
Baby, I came on strong as hell to you. What are you talking about?
No, you didn't. In the beginning, no, you did not.
Yeah,
No, you didn't.
I introduced myself to you. What are you talking about?
Awkward as hell.
But I still did it. I wasn't shy.
Baby, you're still shy. It's okay though. I mean, if you don't feel shy, that's great.
Alright.
absolutely gorgeous. Brown eyes that twinkled mischievously. Plump, kissable red lips that parted to reveal white teeth like perfect little sugar cubes. And thick, dark hair that gently tickled her shoulder blades. Her dresses clung to her like they couldn't get enough of her body. And I understood why. She had just the right amount of curves in just the right places. I wanted to sink my teeth into them.
God.
Just scrumptious. I couldn't...
That's the kind of girl you like, baby?
No. Hey, baby.
He's going in, baby.
Yeah, he look like a creep. He just in the corner just looking at her. He don't get one off when he can go home.
He was on the grill just looking.
Talking about something. Oh! All right, baby.
couldn't believe when she smiled at me. Jaw dropped open like a drawbridge. I stared at her from my seat in the cafe, wondering when the dream would end. It didn't. Not even when she got up and click-clacked over to me, her heels making her hips sway hypnotically. She slipped into the chair in front of me and asked whether I was staring at her. Dear God, her voice. It was like she was pouring nectar straight into my ears. I shook my head a little like an idiot. She laughed, and it was music. Like birds singing an ode to the falling leaves on an autumn morning. Cute, she said, and bit her bottom lip. And that was that. One meeting, and she had me wrapped around her fingers. To say that our relationship was a whirlwind romance would be an understatement. It all feels like a blur to me. Like the view inside of a train that is zooming past yours in the opposite direction. I had no idea how quickly she wriggled her way into my life, settling in like she had always belonged there. I felt like God himself was smiling down on me.
Nah. God probably talking about something. Hey, man. I see you, man. Right? I see you got a little baddie. I tell you right now, this is the God honest truth. I did not do that shit. I don't know where the hell she came from. Say in, what you doing?
And not one to spit on my blessings. I agreed with whatever she suggested, unknowingly losing myself in her, piece by piece. I changed my dressing sense for her, dropped my childhood friends like the deadweight that they were, quit playing video games because it's a child's hobby, not something a grown man in his mid-20s should ever waste his time with.
Ha! That's crazy! Cause you got hella gamers on YouTube making hella money. That's in their 20s. What's wrong with your eyeballs?
I sold off my G.I. Joe collection, got a job I hated, bought a car that was too expensive and took out a loan for a house much bigger than we could have possibly needed, and added her name to the deed. All to please the pert little succubus. At least the sex was heavenly. So heavenly, in fact, that I didn't even protest when she told me she was going to start an OnlyFans account. It'll be good for us, she said, flashing her slender wrist at me, making my heart melt. We need the money, babe. Besides, they only get to look. Only you can touch me. I sighed, loosened my tie, and grunted. Just don't tell me what you post on there. I don't want to know. She squealed with joy and jumped onto my lap, reminding me why I was putting up with all this shit in the first place. That's when things started to go wrong. Terribly, horribly wrong. I would wake up from nightmares I would never remember. More exhausted than I had been when I crashed into bed. That would get soaked to the wood with my sweat. I began sleeping longer but had absolutely no energy during the day. My skin was losing its color. My eyes had dark circles, deep like gorges, and my hands would tremble with weakness.
Oh my God.
At first, I chalked it all up to stress. I was overworked, without friends, stuck in a superficial relationship, and burdened with staggering financial obligations. Of course, my body was finally starting to give out. I wasn't a machine after all, was I? But then the bruises started to appear.
Oh.
On my hands, thighs, back, knees, elbows. My body was being dotted with these little red marks that would inexplicably appear each morning. And they would hurt, like the bite of a fire ant. She had no clue what was causing this, but I did. It all began with that damn OnlyFans account, and I knew I was going to get my answers there. I quickly set up an account and subscribed to hers. But to my utter disappointment, there was nothing out of the ordinary there. Just lingerie pictures, a couple of full-body nudes, that's it. Nothing that would explain what I was going through. This was because she had another account, under a pseudonym, one that she never told me about. Thank God.
I'm gonna start OnlyFans, baby.
She didn't tell you about the other account? She didn't tell you about the other account. You know why? This is going to be so fun doing this and editing. She fought the strike. 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 What up, dude? She for the street. Oh.
God for my connections to the IT sector. I was only able to track it down thanks to them. As soon as my phone buzzed with the message telling me about her other account, I ran into the bathroom at the office and locked myself in the first empty stall. I wiped the sweat off my hands and unlocked my phone. With shaky thumbs, I made the payment and got access to her account. And what
because we got physically going on, I would not feel comfortable taking a shit because I feel like he got hemorrhoids.
I saw made my head spin in fear. Just the most bizarre collection of pictures. Animal skulls mounted on some sort of a greasy altar, candles arranged around a strange chalk diagram on the floor of our basement, grainy photos of rotting carcasses of animals with their entrails ripped out and laid in a circle around them, close-up pictures of accident victims in their cars.
Oh my God.
Limbs cut off, flesh burnt black, skin melting off,
Fuck that.
eyes crushed to a vicious jelly. How the fuck were these photos up? How did she even get them? Why had the folks over at OnlyFans not deleted them? I could feel bile rising up in my throat as I scrolled past those pictures. And the comments to these pictures were just as confusing. Strange symbols and squiggly lines that I had never seen on a fucking keyboard made up these comments. All of them. Hundreds of comments. All in what seemed to be a completely new language. But what terrified me the most were the videos. A primal terror clutched at my chest as I watched those videos. Unlike the pictures, she starred in each and every single one of them.
Wow.
As did I. Some of them were innocent enough. They'd start with her holding the camera and pointing it at her face. she would bring it closer and closer to her mouth until her blood-red lips were almost touching the lens, and then she'd start whispering. I plugged in my earphones and turned the volume up to the max to hear what she was saying, but it was utter nonsense. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. It sounded like no language I had ever heard, yet scared the shit out of me. It was like she was running her tongue around inside my ears, threatening to condemn me to a fate worse than death. She would then walk over and stand over my sleeping form. The video would now speed up and she would stand over me for hours. For hours, as I tossed and turned, tormented by my nightmares. She would stand over me, pointing the camera down at my face. I took a second to calm my heartbeat, which thumped against my chest, my ears, and my temple before moving on. Another video. This time, the camera was set up on a tripod next to my bed. She was there again, hunched over my sleeping form. But this time, she didn't just watch. She bent over, splayed my forearm out, and drove a little needle into it.
How the hell do you not feel that shit? How? What the fuck?
Quickly licking the drops of blood that bubbled out, before turning and grinning at the camera, the greenish night vision making her eyes gleam. I gasped and almost dropped the phone. There were so many of these videos, her injuring me, licking the blood off and grinning at the camera. Literally hundreds of them, all with the same script. And then I moved on to the most recent video. The screen flickered to life and our basement came into view.
Man.
It didn't look like anything I was familiar with. Lit up by candles that bathed the room in a dull orange glow. The entire basement had been turned into some sort of altar, like the pictures I'd seen earlier. Unclean cattle skulls were strewn across the room. The floor was slathered with squiggly chalk lines set up in strange symbols. Tapestries with dizzying designs embroidered on them hung from the rafters, and smoke arose from somewhere off screen. In the middle of it all, though, was the love of my life. Nude, with her entire body soaked in blood, she was writhing on the floor, touching herself and moaning in a hoarse and guttural voice. Propped up on a small table in front of her was a framed picture of me, with the eyes burnt off, probably with a cigarette. The fear that crashed into me brought tears into my eyes. She began rubbing herself faster, and faster, and faster, and faster, and faster until her hand was just a red blur on the screen. Sharp shadows danced on her face as she began speaking. Soon, she said. Soon. 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 Soon.
Is that a shadow?
Her voice rose with each word until she was screaming in a manic frenzy, until the words reverberated like gunshots in the basement. And then, the video came to an abrupt end. I blinked furiously to clear my rapidly fading vision, trying to wrest control of my body from the terror that threatened to shut it down. And then my phone buzzed again, and I almost had a heart attack when I saw the message. Hey babe, when are you coming home tonight?
Can't come home.
Something terrible is happening to me. I haven't slept for 52 hours now. A mix of cold showers, hot coffee, and low-grade amphetamines have kept me going this far. But I'm not sure how much further I can push myself. I feel physically sick from exhaustion, like a slug moving along a razor's edge, about to split at any moment. Now, I will tell you why. For a few months now, I've been selling used underwears and socks online to certain discerning gentlemen. It's not something I ever thought I'd end up doing, but since I lost my job at a local nonprofit, a friend suggested I try the whole seller thing. She told me that as long as I played it safe, I'd make a lot of money very quickly. She was right. Certain guys pay a lot of money for a girl's used underwear, and even worn socks can fetch high prices. But there can be one major problem. Some guys get way too attached. And when they get attached, they want to talk. They want more personalized items.
Oh, yeah?
They want more.
Oh.
That doesn't necessarily mean they get aggressive or overly pervy. Some guys just like having a girl to talk to, since they're too shy or awkward to talk to one in real life.
You loud
I get
shit.
that. I really do. But sometimes it's just such a drag. But one customer was different. Very different. I received a request on my OnlyFans page for a private cam session. I do actually offer private sessions, but I don't do nudity and I don't show my face. But guys do. Guys always show their face. They'll hope I think they're cute and they'll be able to rescue me from having to do things like this. Only the user, heck ate me, didn't show their face. They didn't talk. They didn't ask me to strip. They didn't ask me to pose. It was just this awkward silence for a minute or two before they left the session. Weird, sure, but horribly worse than some of the real creeps I encounter on occasion. I hadn't heard from Heck Ate Me for about a week, since when I just assumed they lost interest. So I was surprised when their username popped up on my OnlyFans request section. They wanted used underwears, but not just any old pair. They wanted blood in them. Their request was no more detailed than that, so I assumed they meant that type of blood. I know. Gross.
Yeah.
I was about to turn down the request when I saw the dollar amount that they were offering. I usually charge just less than $100 for a pair of used underwears, but the offer was in the thousands. I'm talking the high thousands too. So, as dumb as it seems in retrospect, I approved the request. Then, after waiting for the period time to arrive, I made Heck Ate Me their finished product. I think I showered for a full hour afterward before I sealed the underwears in a Ziploc bag and mailed them to the given address. Something you all should know. One of the major things about selling is the potential for repeated business. A lot of guys will return to buy a new pair to escalate our interactions to phone calls and cam sessions. Heck Ate Me didn't. But they paid so well that I ended up reaching out to them instead. Something I'd never, ever done before. I expected them to want another pair of, but when the reply came, it was just 2 words. No thanks. I was stunned. Literally stunned. Normally, it's me doing the rejecting, not the other way around. It was strange, sure. But a few days afterward, shit started to get truly bizarre. I started feeling really, really tired in the mornings. After a few days of this, I realized that I'd actually stopped dreaming. It wasn't just a case of me not being able to remember them. I'd stopped dreaming entirely. I figured this explained why I was so exhausted. Lack of REM sleep can cause fatigue, so I just put it down to that. But increasingly weird stuff started happening in my apartment. Windows and doors I was sure I'd locked that night before were wide open. Things were being broken or moved around to odd places, all during the night. I grew paranoid that one of my customers was casing my home. Luckily, I had quite a bit of cash on hand to pay a locksmith to turn my apartment into a goddamn fortress.
What did you just say? It's probably one of your customers. It's probably one of the people, your fans. I don't know how, but fans be getting access to some of the personal. Wait. The person, the I don't know how to say, very things that are very personal to you. Somehow, some way, fans get access to that. I don't know how.
2 stage locks on all the doors and windows, reinforced window frames, the full security package, but that didn't stop it. Somehow, some way, it seemed that someone was still breaking into my apartment. So, I bought a night vision camera, just a small, inexpensive one to film my apartment as I slept. I set it to record, then took a few sleeping pills to help me slip off into another less than rejuvenating slumber. In the morning, I was nervous about what I'd see, but the reality was horrifying. There wasn't anyone breaking into my apartment. It was me. Getting up during the night and wandering around my own fucking apartment. By the way I moved was the thing that freaked me out the most. Sleepwalkers retain pretty much their entire range of movement. They sometimes walk and talk just as they would while conscious. But as I watched the recording of the night before, I could see I was moving like some twisted marionette. Jerky, awkward movements as if someone was controlling my limbs with wires. I watched myself staring at a framed picture of my little sister. The same jerky movements as I reached out to the mantelpiece where the frame stood. I was in utter disbelief as I watched my unconscious body studying the photograph for a long, long time. I had fast-forwarded the footage to see what I'd do next. Suddenly, with violent, erratic movements, I smashed the picture frame against the wall. Then took my front door keys from the same mantle. But the meat puppet couldn't manage the dexterity of fitting the small keys in the locks. Eventually, they fell from its hands before it just stood there, spasms racking its body before it froze up entirely and returned to bed. I had no idea what the fuck was happening to me. But the one thing that was clear, if the meat puppet had managed to break out of my apartment, it was only a short walk to my parents' house, where my baby sister slept soundly in her bed. She was in terrible danger, and it made me sick to my stomach that danger was me. So here I am, 52 hours of no sleep. I'm so exhausted. I'm not sure I can type much more. I've been reading about DMT online. Apparently it's this drug released by the brain that can induce a semi-permanent dream state.
Oh my
in the
God.
moments approaching death. Some neurologists have suggested that this is where we get the idea of heaven from. Hallucinations of our long-lost relatives, as electrical activity in the brain ceases to function. It feels like a lifetime since I've dreamed, and I'm so f***ing tired. I just want this to end. I couldn't live with myself if something happened to my baby sister, but I can't live with myself now either. I have 3 full bottles of sleeping pill at my desk next to me. Tonight, I'll crack the bottle and chase them all down with the most expensive bottle.
That's death.
Yeah.
That's death. Jesus.
Bottle of wine I can find. I have so much money from selling, but it's worthless now. Fit only to burn. But that doesn't matter now. Nothing will matter in the end. Because in the end, I'll finally be able to dream again. Forever.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Really, baby? You still doing OnlyFans?
Yeah.
Alright, baby. To the ones that want to do OnlyFans, go right ahead. Just proceed with caution. You got some crazy people out there. You got some people that are just clucked up in the head, and then they want to see other people clucked up. So, and just keep your personal things personal, and only show what you want to show. Because anything web related, online related, it could be dangerous as hell. So, you know what I mean? I just want y'all to be safe, and I just want y'all to just think twice before, you know what I mean, you do something, especially if it's online. And yeah, also, please get some rest. I'm not one to talk, but sleep is important.
Yeah.
You didn't have to co-sign. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family. All right, baby. All right, baby.